بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله الذي قصرت عن رؤيته أبصار الناظرين وعجزت عن نعته أوهام الواصفين الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي صدق الله العلي العظيم صلاة السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. The verse that I recited, I've been reciting for the last couple of nights for the topic that we have chosen for the discussion in these ayyam, looking at the messages from Ashura. And I translated these ayat, which are, I'm sure most of you have memorized or have heard many times before, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is addressing this soul which is mutma'in, and upon attaining this itminan, Allah is calling it towards itself in the state that Allah is radi and the soul is also radi. Then Allah gives this soul another status, which is to be among or counted among His servants, and then eventually enter into paradise. Now it becomes a duty of every single one of us to realize this fact, that which is nafs mutma'inna. What is nafs mutma'inna? What is this serene soul? What is this soul at comfort, at peace? And how can we attain this? We yesterday talked about the two aspects of the revelation of Quran. One is tafsir, other was tatbiq. From the tafsiri point of view, this ayat might not fit what we are talking about. From the tatbiqi implementation point of view, this ayat does fit, because Imam Hussein is nafs mutma'inna. In Kalam of Imam, which we've been discussing and mentioning some of the riwayat and the traditions that Imam mentioned in Karbala, one of them said, in which Imam said, that if deen of my Jad lies or remains or will remain with my death and with my martyrdom, then O sword, come and take me. So the willingness of Imam to go towards this martyrdom. And Imam has not come to Karbala to put up a fight. Nor do we say that Imam ﷺ wants to fight. Instead, if he wanted to fight, he would have brought a larger army with him. This is where we understand the difference between the mentality and the understanding of the caravan of Umar Asad, the people of Yazid, and even look at the Christians in the time of Rasulullah. You compare the two. You come out that these so-called Muslims who were apparently reading the kalima and apparently performing the salah and ridiculing Imam when Imam wanted to pause for salat. Look at their behavior and look at the behavior of the Christians of the time of Rasulullah. You would find that those Christians are much better than these so-called Muslims. Why? Because when these Christians from Najran saw in the event of Mubahala that Prophet is coming with his family members, not with a large army, not with his companions, not with a group of people who wants to fight, they backed away. Asqaf A'zam, what did he say? He said, I see faces, if they make dua for a mountain to move from its place, it will definitely move. You want the survival of Christianity? Do not debate with them. They understood and they backed away. They accepted the terms. But look at these so-called Muslimin in the 60th year after Hijrah. They see that Imam is coming with his family, with his wife, with his children, with his brothers, with his sons, and so on and so forth. Yet they want to engage Imam into this war. So you can easily understand the mentality of the Muslim of that time, who is unable to see who is he standing up against. Imam ﷺ made it clear from the very beginning. Mithli la yubayi' mithlah. Person like me will never do bay'at to person like him. Imam did not say, Hussein cannot do bay'at of Yazid. Imam said, person like me cannot do bay'at or pay allegiance to a person like him. Meaning what? That every time or every step of the way or throughout the history of mankind, up until the day of judgment, whenever you have a person who follows the teachings of Hussein, is standing up against person whose tyrants such as Yazid, should not pay allegiance to him. It's not just Hussein who doesn't pay allegiance, but a person like me does not pay allegiance to a person like Yazid. So here we look at this phenomenon. That what is this nafs mutmain? Should we just be content with that, the fact that Imam from nafs mutmain? All of our masumeen possess this nafs mutmain, the serene soul, and we do not need to worry about it. No. These ayat of Quran are not for the masumeen. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Ibadur Rahman, alladhina yamshuna fil ardi hawna, or the one who walk on this earth at peace, the one who has these attributes. Towards the end of Surah Furqan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions these attributes of Ibadur Rahman. That does not mean it is only talking about this elite individuals, group of people known as Ma'sumeen. And we just become happy that yes, it is talking about Ma'sumeen and we don't need to do anything about it. No. These things are there for us to go ahead and implement in our life. We need to become Ibadur Rahman. We need to become and possess this nafs mutmain. How do we possess this nafs mutmain? This is where the question arises. Yes, Ma'sumeen, we're at that level, but you and I, how do we get there? It's a very quick formula that is presented in Quran. One of the ways and methodology of doing the tafsir of Quran is some of the verses of Quran, yufassiru ba'duhu ba'dan. Some of the verses do the tafsir of other verses. Within this Quran, among the methodology that Allah uses for tafsir is what? He looks at the verses of Quran and he does the tafsir of Quran through other verses on many occasions. And therefore over here you can look at other verses of Quran which will do the tafsir of this nafs mutmain. It's very simple if we can understand the art of it. Yet it is very difficult. Once you learn the art of it, then it becomes easy. But learning the art of it is difficult. So you look at the word mutmain in this ayah. You search in Quran, where else do you see the word mutmain? Or the root of this word itminan, which means comfort or peace or serenity. And you take those ayat out. At another place in Quran we read what? Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. So here you can match. Here it says Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna. There it says Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. You put these two ayat together. First ayat is saying, addressing to those who have serene soul. He said, who are these people? Okay, these are the Masumeen. How do we get there? There must be a formula mentioned in Quran. Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. You and I, how do we get comfort? What is one thing that gives you comfort? I'll tell you, as parents, the success of our children gives us pleasure and comfort. You like to see your children successful. You like to see your children's marriages successful. You like to see your family, healthy and whatnot. All of these things give you itminan qalb. Does it not? What is one thing that gives you itminan? You passed a test, or children passed a test. They became successful. These things are usually the things which give us success. Is it not? We look for success in those who are in our surroundings. And that gives us success. That gives us serenity and itminan. But because we're looking for serenity and itminan in materialistic things, when those materialistic things perish, our itminan is gone as well. So one thing we understand, that these materialistic things can only give us itminan for a certain time. After that, it might not be there. So there must be something which is a permanent solution for itminan qalb. Quran says, Ala bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. Do the dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you'll find itminan qalb. Oh Allah, what is the way of doing your dhikr? Look at another ayat of Quran. Ba'duhu yufassiru ba'du. Some of these ayat doing tafsir of other. From nafs mutmainna you got to Allah bi dhikrillahi tatma'innul qulub. From this ayat you can find out what is the dhikr of Allah. Aqimus salata li dhikri. Allah says in Quran, establish the prayer in order to do my dhikr. That's the best method of doing my dhikr. Hence we can deduce from this threefold formula that if we did the dhikr of Allah by performing this salat, we can attain this itminan qalb. Isn't that why a lot of time you see people when they're in trouble? Trouble by mean when there's some sort of calamity. You see them getting on musalla all the time, performing the dua, performing extra ibadat. This sense should be there throughout, not just when we are facing calamities. Because when you can develop the sense of this ibadat, where you get pleasure out of it. Unfortunately, this pleasure comes when we're advanced in age. When we have nothing else, apparently we're retired and there's not much on our shoulder. Children are there taking care of us. That's when this love for ibadat comes into play. Then we're looking forward to ibadat. Then we're looking forward to the salat. Then we're looking forward to performance of the dua. You see all the time, a lot of these elderly are asking, Maulana, what kind of amal should we do today? What kind of amal should we perform today? They're looking for extra amal, aside from the wajibat that are there. Unfortunately, it comes late, but it has to develop from early ages. How do you develop that? How do you instill the love and the pleasure of this ibadat into the children who are younger? Well, first and foremost, you need to start giving them the sense that this is an ibadat which is wajib, obligatory upon you. So first and the foremost step should be by not skipping it, getting in the habit of performing it. And then the next step would be to finding how you can fall in love and get pleasure out of the salat. Salat bi Muhammad wa alihi. take you back one step, that this ayat that we were reciting from Surah Fajr. If you look at the initial ayat of Surah Fajr, it says, Wal Fajr, Walayalin Ashr, Wash-Shaf'i Wal Watr. You look at these ayat, and again the implementation of these ayat. Why are we using these ayat for Imam Hussein? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by the dawn. Wal Fajr, by the dawn. Walayalin Ashr. And the 10 nights. 10 nights. Shaf'i wal Watr. Odd and even. What are these 10 nights? This is where the tatbiq of Quran comes in. Not the tafsir, tatbiq. Tafsir would mention that these 10 nights could be referring towards the last 10 nights of Ramadan, where we're looking for what? Laylatul Qadr. Some of the tafsir mention that these 10 nights are referring towards the first 10 nights of Zul Hijjah. From the first of Zul Hijjah up until the 10th, these are being referred to. Some of them have done mutabiqat of these ayat by saying they're referring towards the first 10 nights of Muharram. From the 1st of Muharram up until the 10th of Muharram. And this is where they connect towards the end. Again, this is not the tafsir of the ayat. Don't get me wrong. This is the tatbiq of the ayat. The Ya ayyatuha nafsul mutmainna is referring towards Imam Hussein being nafsul mutmainna in that battlefield, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking him to return back to your Lord in the state that I am satisfied with you. You've already satisfied me, and you are also satisfied with me. Come back to your Lord, enter into my paradise. Sawaddi Muhammad. So the salat is very important. There's not much that we can talk about. I'm sure throughout the year you hear a great deal. But I'll share a few words so that the younger crowd over here could, follow along. And again, I'll make the exception for the elders. That I'm sure they've already have understood the importance of it. A lot of time we hear this concept, and these are ahadith which actually tell us that إِنَّ الْوُصُولَ إِلَى اللَّهِ سَفَرٌ لَا يُدْرِكُهُ إِلَّا بِإِنْقِطَاعِ اللَّيْلِ. Everybody's trying to reach Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's our goal. But this is a travel, this is a safar that you have to perform. And it is not possible except in the depths of the night, at the night time. When you do the tafsir of these ahadith, it is referring towards namaz-e-shab or salatul layl. Inshallah, Allah gives us the tawfiq that we perform the salatul layl on regular basis. Salatul Fajr, Salatul Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, those are wajib. We perform that inshallah on a regular basis. But even the Salatul Layl, may Allah give us the tawfiq to perform this on a regular basis. It's very simple. And again, I'm speaking to the younger ones. You make this habit, and usually the concept is that it should be performed at night. And the concept of night is after midnight. No, the concept of night is not after midnight. Night begins after Maghrib. So after you've done your Maghrib and Isha, you've eaten your food, and I'm sure nobody goes to bed, although parents are thinking that children have closed the doors and now they've gone to sleep, the lights are off and everything. No, they're still awake. You don't turn off the switch and fall asleep like that. At that time, take this opportunity to perform 3 rakat namaz. 2 rakat of namaz shaf, 1 rakat of namaz witr. Eventually, it's only 3 rakat. It's not that much, it's not that long. It won't take too much time. As it is, you're awake, watching something or whatnot. Take 5 minutes of your time, perform this 3 rakat namaz. 2 rakat of shaf and 1 rakat of namaz witr. Establish it how like this. Get in the habit of doing this. Slowly, it will become part of your life. Then you can increase the remaining 8 rakat before that. And you'll have these 11 rakat. Remember, our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salatu wasalam. counted the alamat of a mu'min. Among the alamat of a mu'min, signs of a mu'min, one of them was what? أن يصلي 51 ركعة. That a mu'min is someone who performs 51 rak'at in his day and night. 17 is wajib. That is difficult for us to perform. 51, where is this 51 coming from? You got 2 rakat nawafil of your fajr, 8 rakat for dhuhr, 8 rakat for asr, 4 rakat for maghrib, 2 sitting down, which is actually considered 1 for isha, and 11 for salatul layl, adds up to 51. I don't know how many of us have had this opportunity once in our life to perform 51 in all day. But nonetheless, that's for another time. So that is something which we need to establish slowly. Just so emphasize on how important this salat is. There's a well-known hadith which says, first thing that you will be asked about on the day of judgment, أَوَّلُ مَا يُحَاسَبُ, first thing that you will be done hisab, kitab, and accountability for is as-salat. Why are we talking about salat? Imam ﷺ, in the middle of the battlefield, one of his companions by the name Abu Thamama as-Sa'idi reminds Imam of Salatul Dhuhr. Imam stops everything and establishes the salat. In the heat of Karbala, in the middle of this battle, Imam ﷺ stops and he performs this salat. People might have asked, Imam, we can pray afterwards, there's still time. Let's finish this battle and then we'll pray. Imam said, no, this is the reason we have come over here. This is the reason we have gathered over here. They're also performing salat, but we need to tell them that this is the salat. That's why one of the attributes that our sixth Imam mentions in regards to our third Imam, when we recite the ziyarah, he says, Ashhadu annaka qad aqamta as-salat. You think our sixth Imam is telling us that Imam Hussein used to perform salat? Do we really need to know that? Does Imam really need to tell us? A Masoom has to tell us that another Masoom used to pray? Does this make any sense? Yes, you come to me, Mawlana, my child prays 5 times a day. I said, good. You and I need to tell one another like this. But does really Imam have to tell us that third Imam used to pray? No. That's understood. What does he say? He says, Ashhadu annaka, I bear witness, qad aqamta as-salat. You established the prayer. Not prayed. Yes, you prayed all the time, but you established it. You stopped it from it getting perished, and you stopped it from being lost. Imam ﷺ is performing salat in that heat. What kind of salat is this? Usually you have Imam in front and you have Mamoom, followers in the back. This is one unique salat in which you have Mamoom standing in front of Imam as well. Yes, there were people standing behind Imam performing salat, but there were people standing in front of Imam as well. They were performing salat-e-ishq. Who are these people? Among them is Sa'id. Among them is Zuhair. These are the people who are standing in front of Imam Hussein with their chests wide open, receiving these arrows onto their chests so that Imam can finish his salat. By the end of the salat, Sa'id had received 13 arrows and he falls onto the ground. But he didn't fall until Imam finished his salat. This is salat-e-ishq that these people were performing. Yes, there were people behind Imam in the imamat of Imam, but there were imamat of these people going on ahead of Imam as well.
Subhanallah.
Have you seen this salat? So the question is, فَإِن قُبِلَتْ قُبِلَ مَا سِوَاهَا. If the salat is accepted, everything else is accepted. وَإِن رُدَّتْ رُدَّ مَا سِوَاهَا. If salat is not accepted, nothing else will be accepted. Here a lot of people might raise questions saying that, look, we understand the importance of salat, but how is it possible that one action becomes so important that everything else is resting upon this action? You're meaning to tell us that my so-and-so relative, who occasionally prays, but performs all of this charity, helping orphanages, helping imam bargas and masajid and whatnot, doing a lot of donation work and welfare work, but occasionally prays. You're telling me that on the Day of Judgment, all of his actions will be turned down because he did not perform salat? No, I'm not saying this. Hadith talks about this. That the importance of salat is that if salat is accepted, everything else is accepted. If salat is declined, everything else is declined. He said, no, still I cannot digest. How is it possible? We're not sending anyone to paradise, nor are we sending anyone to the hell. That's not our duty. That's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we're just looking at the formulas that have been mentioned to us and acting according to that. So Hadith says, فَإِن قُبِلَتْ قُبِلَ مَا سِوَاهَا وَإِن رُدَّتْ رُدَّتْ مَا سِوَاهَا. If it's accepted, everything else is accepted. If it's rejected, everything else is rejected. And I usually just give this example, sorry for repetition, those of you who have heard it, that imagine when you're driving down the road and you get pulled over by the cop. Yes, that feeling. What's going to happen now? Cop comes down, knocks on the window, you roll the window down. What is the first thing that he says? License and registration. You reach down in your pocket, oh, this is my passport. U.S. passport. Diplomatic passport. You say, no, license. So this is my health card right here. So yeah, it is good, but not here. You reach down in your pocket, my social security card. You reach down in your pocket, my credit cards. You say, yeah, those are very important. Keep it with you. I need license right here. Your passport is equally important when you're traveling at the airport. Your health insurance card is very important when you're at the hospital. Your credit cards are important when you're shopping around. Not over here. Here, if you have driver's license, everything else is accepted. If you don't have driver's license, none of these things will be accepted. Similarly, when we're entering in the bargah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the face that we bring with the salat in front of it, yes, we will be given the invitation to come in. Everything else will come inside as well. But if the salat is rejected, nothing else will matter at that point. Salat bi Muhammad wa So this is where we look at a lot of people are comparing salat and Imam Hussein. We're doing the dhikr of Imam, this is ibadat as well. He said, Imam is more important. Yes, more, definitely. Imam is part of usul ad-din. Is part of imamat. If you don't believe in usul ad-din, no matter how many furu ad-din you can perform, none will be accepted. Similarly, if you only believe in usul ad-din and not perform any furu ad-din, God knows what's going to happen. So both have to go along. So look, Imam ﷺ, he climbed onto the back of Rasulullah while Rasul was performing the salah. Rasul did not raise his head back up until Imam got off. That tells us Imam is more important. It does tell us Imam is important, but how do you draw the conclusion that salat is less important? This is where we make a mistake. I'm not going to go in this topic. It's a very controversial and heated topic, but I'll just make one comment on it and we'll move forward. That when Imam ﷺ climbs onto the back of Rasulullah while he's in the state of sajda, that dhikr which Rasulullah does normally 3 times or 5 times, today when Hussein has climbed onto his back, he does it 70 times. Yes, the ashab kept on looking up if Rasulullah has raised his back up, but he was still in sajda. That dhikr is now done for 70 times. What does that tell you? With the wujood of Imam Hussein, salat did not decrease, rather it increased and multiplied. Isn't that the case? The wujood of Imam is actually increasing our namaz. Wujood of Imam is increasing and prolonging the salat of Rasulullah. It's not by any means decreasing the salat of Rasulullah. So it's a foolish debate to go ahead and start comparing Azadari or Imam and salat and so on and so forth. No, you need both of them to go along one has to do with your aqidah, the second one has to do with furu'id-din. Salawat bi Muhammad. And therefore, we understand that definitely there is no comparison between the two. But what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say in these ayat? Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutmainna. He did not say Ya ayyatuhal jismul mutmainna, referring towards the nafs of insan. And therefore nafs is something which requires this purification, this cleansing. So therefore salat becomes a very important aspect of our life. I'll tell you to this extent, when we perform the salat individually, there's no guaranteeing that it is accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where the formula is given to us. Salat, for sure that is accepted. How many of us over here can claim that I have performed 2 rakat namaz in my life? At least I can make this claim. That I performed 2 rakat namaz in my life in which I have thought of nothing but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm sure some of you can do that. At least I can make this claim. Even in this merely 2 rakat namaz, there's so many thoughts that are coming into my mind. I can make one claim though, that I have performed numerous times namaz in which I have thought of everything but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That has happened many times, unfortunately. But the salat that we are looking for with khulus and sincerity, where you only think of God, Allah and nothing else. But that is very difficult for us to attain. So we have given a substitute. What is that substitute? That substitute is that you perform your salat in jama'at inside a masjid. With this salat, for sure and guaranteed that it is accepted in the bargah of Allah. There's no turning down of this salat. And these are the authentic riwayat that mention it. And it says that if there are 2 people in jama'at, 70 times is the reward. If there are 3 people in jama'at, 140 is the reward. If there are 4 people in jama'at, this number is the reward. When there are 5 in jama'at, this number is the reward. When there are 10 in jama'at, there's no way of enumerating and counting the thawab of the salah. No way. If all of the angels in the world got together and all of the trees became the pen and all of the water in the world became the ink, they will not be able to write the thawab of the salat in which there are 10 people standing in jama'ah. There's no way of counting and enumerating the thawab of that. You say, how is that possible? Did they not know the counting after 10? 10 was the maximum number that they knew at that time? No. They knew numbers in thousands and whatnot. But it just shows you 10 people in jama'at takes this salat to that level. What level? And I'll again give an example so that we can understand. Imagine a person has only 1 finger. What are you able to do with this 1 finger? You can maybe push a thing or 2. Well, imagine a person has 2 fingers. Maybe you can pick something. If you have 3, you can write something. If you have 4, you can grab something. If you have 5, you can do a lot of things, pushing, pulling, and whatnot. If a person has all 10 fingers intact, there's no limitation to what this person can or cannot do. No one in the history has ever said, I wish I had more fingers so I could have done so and so thing. I wish I had 11 fingers or 12 fingers, I would be able to undertake that task. No one has ever said that. 10 is the maximum amount of numbers that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you because you're able to perform everything. There's no limitation to what you can or cannot do with this. Yes, with the physical abilities, that's another thing. But 10 is all you need. Similarly, 10 is all there is needed for this salat to get to the level where even angels will not be able to count the benefits and the thawab for it. So I think and so we understand that one of the lessons from Ashura and the messages from Ashura is the message of Tawheed, Wahdaniyat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Tawheed is not just oneness of God, but Tawheed should be shown in the ibadat, Tawheed in ita'at, Tawheed in dhat, and Tawheed in af'al. There's a whole discussion in the Kalam and in Aqaid about this Tawheed and the different divisions of Tawheed. Again, there's no time And this is not the place to discuss those things. But we see that from the kalam of Imam, and we see that from the actions of Imam, how this Tawheed was visible. And not just Imam ﷺ, whom we expect this to be visible from, but even all of those people who were with Imam ﷺ produced that, and they were able to present that. Among the things that Imam ﷺ said when he was facing these people, and again, these were the people who were performing the salat, but yet they were not having any impact on what Imam ﷺ was saying. Imam at one point said to them, "An-nasu abidud dunya." People are the servants of this world. I wish they were servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is where wahdaniyat comes into play. So, we believe in one God. There's nothing wrong as far as my tawheed is concerned. I believe in one God. This is something which we are taught from the very first grade. But this is only something which we are taught. But when it comes to actions and practice, we forget. Quran says, look at the person who took his desires to be his Lord. You're doing shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right there. So you've lost that aspect of tawheed. Imam said what? In the nas, he said, "An-nasu abidud dunya." Indeed, these people are the servants of the world. وَالدِّينُ لَائِقٌ عَلَىٰ أَلْسِنَتِكُمْ. And the religion is something which is just the stutter of their mouth and their tongues. يَعُوتُونَهُ مَا دَرَّتْ مَعَائِشَهُمْ. Wherever their ma'aish, their earnings take them, they go around and they take it around like that. فَإِذَا مُحْفِسُوا بِالْبَلَىٰ قَلَّتْ دَيَّانُ. But as soon as these people are put into some sort of bala, and they're into ibtila, they're into some sort of calamity, قَلَّتْ دَيَّانُ. You see, very few are possessors of deen. And Imam is standing in front of these people, addressing them. You and I, after so many years, listen to the kalam of Imam, and it has impact on us. You hear this hadith, you say, yeah, it deeply affects me. You hear one word, you say, yeah, it deeply affects me. So these words of Quran and Masumin affect you even after so many years. Imagine if these words were coming out of the mouth of Rasulullah and Imam, would that not have effect on you? But these people were not having any effect. Why? The fact is, Imam said it himself. مُلِعَتْ فَقَدْ مُلِعَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ فَقَدْ مُلِعَتْ بُطُونَكُمْ عَنِ الْحَرَامِ. Indeed, your bellies are filled with haram. When the bellies are filled with haram, there's no effect. There's no effect. I remember the other day, I wanted to mention a story to you. But then I wanted to look at the authenticity of the story, that's why I did not mention it, I just remembered it. Without mentioning the names, I'll just tell the story because it has a good message from it. And that was how these things that we consume have effect on us. There was an alim, there was a scholar of his time, and he was very careful as to what he fed his family. He told his wife, only eat during the pregnancy and post-pregnancy, only eat from that which I bring to you. Do not eat anything anywhere. Because you want to make sure that this child is born in the state of purity. So one day, this alim, he said he was in the masjid, and there were people who would carry on this water skin, and they would sell this water. His son, who was only 4 years old, the children running around doing mischief. Mulana was saying the other day that our kids, when they were younger, they used to do all these mischief. Now we don't see that. The other kids, the other parents, their kids are doing it. Now we right away point fingers to them. No, our kids were the same way. So this kid took this nail and he poked it into this water skin. And results, what? All the water drained out. Right away he ran because he had done something wrong. The news reached his father. Instead, his father, instead of going to the son, who was only 4 years old, went to the mother. He said, I cannot recall eating anything questionable during the pregnancy and after the birth. So from my end, I have not eaten anything which was questionable and doubtful. What about you? She said, I can't remember. She said, recall. Was there a time that you ate something that was doubtful? She thought and said, yes, one day when I was pregnant with him, neighbor's tree, there was a pomegranate that had fallen into our house. I picked up that pomegranate, I poked it with a needle, wanted to suck the juice of it, but then I realized you had told me not to eat anything, which might be doubtful. He said, that is the implementation of what happened today. Your son also did the same thing. He did not drink from that water, but he poked it and drained all the water. You did that back then. It is the result of that. This is how impactful these things could be, as to we need to be very careful what we consume, because luqmatul haram yubin fi dhurriyah. One haram morsel will have its effect onto the children. Salawat Sayyidi Muhammad wa Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, going back to the concept of Tawheed, inshallah I'll be wrapping it up, running out of my time. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam knew about his shahada from before. It was not a concept that Imam did not know about it. Imam was told by his grandfather, was reminded by his father. He himself had seen the dreams many times. On the way to Karbala, Imam had seen that as well. But Imam had there was nothing that was slowing him down. You and I, if we find out this is what's going to happen, right away our feet will start trembling. Our conviction will become slow. But having this knowledge, having possessed this knowledge, Imam ﷺ did not slow down. It did not slow him down. In fact, one of the things that Imam said, he said, تَرَبْتُ الْخَلْقَ طُرًّا فِي هَوَاكَ وَأَيْتَمْتُ الْعَيَالَ لِكَيْ أَرَاكَ. I left the khalq, everything that is in this makhluqat, in the creation, طُرًّا فِي هَوَاكَ, for your desire. In order to seek your desire, O my Lord. أَيْتَمْتُ الْعِيَالَ لِكَيْ أَرَاكَ. I made my family yatim in order for me to see you. This is the conviction of Imam ﷺ. A lot of people raise questions at that time as to why Imam ﷺ is going in this direction. People gave Imam suggestion, Imam, you should go towards Yemen. Some said, Imam, you should go towards Egypt. Some said Imam should go stay in Medina. There's no need for him to go in this direction that he's going. Imam kept on replying back that I've received these letters from Kufa. At least Kufans invited me. No one else invited me. Had the people of Yemen invited me, I would have gone there. Had the people of Egypt invited me, I would have gone there. Out of all of these places that exist, only Kufans were the ones who invited me. If I do not say labbaik to their call, tomorrow they might say, we invited Imam. We had opened our hands and hearts, Imam never came to us. But Imam made sure that he took care of that fact as well. He sent his brother, his cousin, Muslim ibn Aqil. Imam did not walk into a brick wall, as some suggested. No. He did his homework. He sent Muslim ibn Aqil to go out and look at the ahwal of Kufa and inform Imam if these letters are true or whatnot. Inshallah, one of these days we will talk about the nature of some of these letters that Imam had received. Yes, we have documentation of the letters that Imam received. We'll talk about the nature. Imam sends Muslim ibn Aqil. You just heard very beautifully in the presentation before me how Muslim, who's an ambassador of Imam ﷺ. Is there a history of anyone who was an ambassador is treated in this way, the way Muslim ibn Aqil was treated? Muslim ibn Aqil, when he went, all of the Kufa was with him. Some 18,000 people were with him. But because of the weakness of their iman and being intimidated by the enemy and the new governor of Kufa, a lot of people backed away. They left him, they stranded him. The riwayat mentioned that by the time of Maghrib prayers, there were only a few handful of people behind him. And after Isha, there was no one behind him. This is the mazlumiyat of Muslim ibn Aqil. Wallahi, imagine you go to a strange city and everybody leaves you. But Muslim ibn Aqil did not leave his duties. He eventually found shelter in this lady's house, Tawa'a. We took care of it. But unfortunately, this is how Muslims' end came. And similar end was of Muslims' children. Tiflan Muslim was similar to this as well. They also found shelter in someone's house. And they were also carried over. Muhammad ibn Ashas was sent to go ahead and apprehend Muslim ibn Aqil. You heard that Muslim was fighting in a way that he had to ask for more force. He said, I sent you to go ahead and capture one individual. He said, you think this one individual is an ordinary person? No, he's a lion of Banu Hashim. Send more people. They gave Muslim aman that we will not kill you. You can come with us. Muslim ibn Aqil goes. Even to that last moment, he made sure that he conveyed the duties that were upon him as an ambassador of Imam alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, I want to send a message to Imam. I owe someone money, pay it off by selling this shield of mine. And there were some other things that he said. Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, when he was passing by the place, and we talked about it, some of the places that Imam went by, Tha'alabiyya, Imam gets the news that Muslim ibn Aqil, alongside with Hani ibn Urwa, have been martyred. Just one sentence and I will conclude. That Imam alayhi salatu wasalam, after hearing the martyrdom of Muslim ibn Aqil, Imam has come too far for him to turn around and go back. He was waiting for this news, something to hear from Muslim, but he hears the news that Muslim ibn Aqil has been martyred. This is the first martyr of the Karbala, tragedy of Karbala. Who's the first martyr of the tragedy of Karbala? Muslim ibn Aqil. Imam at this point, when he's in Thalabiyah, he goes to the tent, he goes to the place where the children of Muslim ibn Aqil, especially the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil was. Imam goes to the tent of the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. He asks the daughter to come to him. The daughter of Muslim comes to Imam. Imam puts his hand onto the head of the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. Imam caresses and holds the daughter in a way that right away this young daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil, what does she say? She said, oh Imam, you're holding me, you're touching me the way people touch orphans. Imam said, oh yes, my daughter, your father has been martyred. You have indeed become an orphan. But let it be known that as long as I'm alive, no one will ever do anything to you. I say, oh Mawla, you gave this aman to the young daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. But come the day of Ashur, little Sakina, where will she find comfort? ألا لا تطلع القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلب